Full blast, we are back. Thank you for coming back. It has been 2.5 weeks since we last chatted, and what a 2.5 weeks it was. I visited family over in Canada. It was wonderful. Big shout out to Mom and the fam. Brothers, nieces, sister, everybody. That was a ton of fun, a great break. So welcome back, Artist Journal, December 18th, 2023, broadcasting from the shores of physical reality to the high seas of inner space. My name is Adrian Pocobelli, and probably a lot of you recognize this artist, I'm sure. Popple, who is kind of this, how would you describe, almost this solitary figure out there in the digital ether, in the on the blockchain, but very, indie in his, in the sense of being very independent. Kind of does his own thing, and very unique in his art, as we saw with this series that started a year ago. I remember, actually, these new works that came out. I believe it was when Popple was on a Christmas vacation a year ago. The Sanitarium series was started, as he described it. I was working on an overheated laptop, if memory serves. And so here we are, a year later, with this stunningly gorgeous work, which just feels to me like it will survive the test of time. And it was one of those works that, as soon as I saw it, within milliseconds, I was like, oh, I could start with that one. And it came out a couple of weeks ago, I think, and it just kind of remained there in my head. So a wonderful way to start the newspaper of the imagination here. And I love this figure. This is a commission. I think Apple Cake. Let me just actually quickly look here. Apple Cake. Not Apple Cake, but Apple Cake is the person who commissioned this. Commissions aren't easy, by the way. I mean, they're kind of pressured situations where you're given money beforehand, and so then you got to deliver. This one really turned out well. Apple Cake with full creative freedom. So maybe Apple Cake not even asking to be depicted in anything, and Popple just deciding that would be a good idea. Let me just bring back this other image here to zoom in a bit to see what's going on. So, I mean, why is this working? It's kind of got this almost Renaissance-like or very classic pose here. The beautiful apple for the head that is shimmering, and this crown of stem. I mean, brilliant. And even it almost evokes the crown of thorns here, but even like a little leaf, as part of this hat. And this wonderful drink, this carbonated drink, letting off its kind of spritzes of pixels. Beautiful. And again, and above one of these pools, this looks like more of a magma pool than a pool of magma. And almost looking here like, as if it's like a volcano of sorts or some sort of crater, right? And here on this kind of cybernetic alien, classic Popple styled apple with a little bit of shimmering background here. So it all comes together. Again, kind of monochromatic for the most part. I mean, a couple of colors, let's say gray and red, with just a touch of other colors here. Beautifully, masterfully done. This gorgeous, almost desaturated purple. This is a subtle work in terms of color. Spectacular work. Everything is done well. It's like a year of work consolidated into one piece and then comes out basically, brilliantly. Again, put it this way. I mean, if I was to make a book, if you said, Adrian, make a book of all of Popple's work, and I had to decide what to put on the cover of that book, I would be very tempted to make this the cover. Because again, it's kind of got that, it's almost like a Renaissance-like composition, the balance in imbalance, what do they call that? Oh, there's a word for it. Greek statues where there's contrapposto. It's called contrapposto. There's almost a contrapposto here. You notice how it's not symmetrical? This is why I say it's kind of got a Renaissance-like composition here. It's the balance in imbalance. It's not a symmetrical thing, but it's still balanced. And so, you have the staff, the king's staff, let's call it, on one side of the Apple King, and then this magical, drink, elixir, Let's call it an elixir. This looks like an elixir. And again, so kind of a beautifully composed work here. A complete original. And it moves, like this is, and we're going to get to this with RJ about like, this is works that work on a screen. Very interesting discussion that RJ brought up. And because I'm thinking to myself, like, this is not work you're going to see at Art Basel in the main hall, right? You might call it the main Art Basel. This is not a work you're generally going to see in a gallery. It could be. You could do it, but generally speaking, it's moving. It's digital. It's kind of almost, as RJ is saying, and we'll get to that discussion in a second here, it's almost designed to be consumed as we are right now, or on a screen, as I am right now. So just a brilliant, beautiful work here. Again, a commission. Nice kind of small work here, 960 by 1350. And again, the really interesting thing about pixel art is this not worrying about the size anymore. And this is something that I have learned as I've kind of gotten to know this blockchain scene, because I worked digitally for years before then, and size, my Peloponnesian War series, by the end of it, I was making them all 4,000 by 5,000, basically 4 by 5 to fit the Instagram thing perfectly, which is a 4 by 5 ratio. And so, but discovering the pixel art, the work of the pixel artists here, I've come to love, even when I mint on Bitcoin, and that's a whole other discussion we're going to have here in a second, I'll make it as low as like 256 by 128 pixels here. Maybe that big, right? So like a Google ad. So all to say, wonderfully small work by Popple in this wonderfully cool Sanitarium series. Here's a couple of others that Popple has been teasing out here on the Twitter feed. My favorite part of this is the skull. The shimmering, multicolored, rainbow-esque pixeled skull, with a little bit of I can't read that, but very just kind of cool and cryptic work here. Again, kind of has this kind of semi-fantasy vibe, shall we say. Here's another one. This looks like a staff or a sword in the background. Not Stalker. Again, kind of these monsters here. Playing with this framing device, as we saw in the other one, interestingly kind of red on the left, blue on the right, and then kind of gradiented over very loosely. Just really interesting work. And of course, Popple sometimes uses some generative art, as we might be seeing here in the background, perhaps. Sometimes mixes generative in with the pixel art. So super cool work by Popple. Just an awesome artist, and what a piece, that Apple King. Thank you to Tuna for picking up Will and Kate. I was releasing a lot of stuff that was basically 80 or 90% done on my iPad there. Then when I had a few extra minutes here on vacation there, doing an early Christmas with the fam, William Shatner Now and Then. Thank you, Trippy Collector, for picking that up. And thank you to Indio Robot for picking up Wall Street Journal. And thank you to everybody here for picking up Boba Fett, on part of the Nostalgia Studies series. And here is another Nostalgia Studies series. Thank you, Gogolitis, Load Runner number 100. Just really cool to be collected by all these wonderful people here. So big shout out and thanks. And thanks to everybody who picked up Shuttle Launch 1 through 3. And I sent this Departure 1 of 1 out to Ilay for just being, as his Drupal Waffle would say, a great human being. So thank you, everybody. Big show note as well. Mech.txt is going to be on the spaces with maybe, and I follow Mech.txt, that is a Twitter error, by the way, who's going to be on with the team on Wednesday, I think. I think it's either Mech.txt or Mech.txt and others who are working on this Loving Type exhibition. So that should be awesome. I'll put out the tweet either later today or tomorrow. I'm still working. Mech asked me for a little bit of intro text, so I'm working on that. Hopefully finish today. So, so watch out for that. So here's our last work and or last show here, and we got a few comments here. I'm going to try and run through these here. Score, thank you for the review of the collab with Sky Goodman. And A.A. Murakami is an amazing artist. We were together at Bright Moments in Tokyo. I guess the other Murakami is Takashi Murakami. He is super famous, of course. Thank you for clearing that up, because I knew I saw the name Murakami. I had seen that before. Of course, that famous, I think, Gagosian artist out of Japan. So it is a different Murakami. Skamra, great show. And Skamra gives his background, not great at telling my story. My degree is in poetics, focused on experimental and electronic poetry. So how cool is that? So there is no technique there, but there is a lot of overlap with art history, and also with, if you learn electronic poetry and experiment, you're learning processes, like conceptual processes. Randomness is like a big one. Like just studying, let's say you probably studied a little John Cage, right? And how he would work with randomness, say with a prepared piano, putting an eraser on some of the strings, and so you don't know what's going to come out. Just learning I would argue you did actually learn to, by studying poetics and how things are electronic poetry, I'm sure you did study some technique. But let's continue here. I also did glitch-adjacent low-resolution photography for a long time, mostly for myself. Interesting. Low resolution. Again, I find low resolution just a very interesting topic. Finally, I have a computer science background and have been following crypto since 2014, though I unfortunately did not stash away very much of it. Yeah, whenever you hear that, you assume someone's like totally rich, but not always, as we can see here. So I sometimes think of my participation in the space as an emergent phenomenon given my background. When I started minting my GAN works, which is artificial intelligence method, let's say, or style, or I don't know if we'd call it technique. When I started minting, it's I think a early AI image maker. GANWorks in 2021. I had no clue AI art was going to become what it has. So all to say, Skamra's been making AI art for a few years here, a couple of years at least. I guess I thought AI art would be this thing that existed on the fringes of crypto art, with hand-drawn work, pixel art, and glitch trash art being the most acknowledged art forms here. Interesting choices. I think it shows how early it is, the fact that this is kind of an open question, isn't it? Though it's still not as prevalent as those categories, it's been interesting to see AI art become a fully recognized category in the space. So that is interesting. Yeah, it was about a year and 3 months ago, I'd argue. Yeah, like for me, I can only speak personally. It was Strange Things, Thug Lord, that I went, okay, I have to reckon with this work. And you see that in the early shows, me trying to reckon with AI art and ultimately getting brought over, crossed over the line from being kind of like, is this pushing a button, to this is a real thing. This is, as Lorna Mills says, this is AI art is legit, as she said in our spaces a couple of weeks ago. Let's continue here. Stip and Pixel, thank you very much for showing all the artists on the drop collective Halftones in Zora. It was a drop organized by Pinky Blue and Fabric 2K with a lot of love and effort. We managed to fill the pixels. We managed to fill with pixels in Zora. Long live Pixel, long live Pocobelli. Thank you, Stip and Pixel. Long live Stip and Pixel. And those beautifully, just kind of, there's something kind of innocent about a lot of Stip and Pixel's work that I really love. Just kids at the playground and just fun. Just like a parent looking on their kids. I just love Stip and Pixel. So thank you for the info there. PP Universal, thanks for featuring my work. And this is the work in discussion here. This was PP Universal who did the wheelchair, which I thought was just a super powerful work. Not sure why I chose to do the wheelchair, but maybe because of my fear of having to use it at some point in the future. Back to that fear theme. I had surgery in my right knee because I broke my ligaments playing football some years ago. I had a bike accident and I injured the same knee. And to be honest, I'm okay, but not so okay. I walk with fear because clearly is more near to broke again than to be functional. Yeah, that is terrifying. So thank you for sharing that, though. I think it probably did kind of bubble out of your subconscious. It's an unusual subject matter. Maybe this is what caused me to choose the wheelchair. We will never know, as I choose bright colors to try and give positiveness to this very important element. Again, very beautiful and poetic, and yeah, and as a friend of mine was saying when I was discussing this work actually afterwards, an object of fear for some and an object of banal day-to-day reality for others. again, just a potent subject and image, and well, tackled, well approached by PP. So thank you for the comment. Dan 8K. So this is interesting. Great episode as usual. Thank you. Now, this is very interesting. So the whole BTC, Bitcoin environment argument, curious to hear your thoughts from you and other folks regarding the carbon footprint when minting art on Bitcoin. I know the phrase carbon footprint is somewhat nonsense considering it was created by Big Oil. I did not know that, but I thought ecological costs were a large part of why a lot of artists turned to Tezos in 2020. I suspect you're right. It wasn't a driving force for me, and I care about the environment, but it just wasn't the reason. I did it because I kind of liked and thought it was cool, but there are many artists who actually, like in the spaces, who have said that. So that is true. Since ETH is now proof of stake, we've seen a lot of artists make the jump. If I understand correctly, Bitcoin will always remain proof of work. I recognize Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency standard, but it seems fraught with ethical issues. Yeah, it's an interesting and very kind of tricky debate. Let's continue the argument and then we'll go back here. I understand ordinals is exciting, but thought I would raise the question about ecological concerns again. Right. So Dan 8K is making is raising the question: are there ethical issues with minting on Bitcoin, considering the environmental or carbon footprint? Let's just finish. Everyone has probably moved past this conversation from 3 years ago. I don't mean to make a finger-wagging comment, but I'm curious if I missed something about the technology involved to eliminate this concern. And the way I would put it is, I just see it as, in my mind, everybody has to come make their own decision about this. I simply see it as the cost of doing business. And, this whole environmental argument against Bitcoin, I always saw it as a bit of a media narrative from my perspective that was, an unfair, put it this way. I didn't feel like the media fairly compared, say, all of the energy, say, that a bank uses or that the car industry uses. I mean, how much energy, when you think about it, to make just to get the aluminum, the copper, the lithium, if it's an electric vehicle even, the graphite, and you're probably getting that graphite out of China with, all the energy how much energy, what is the cost of doing business in this world? And what I would say is even, proof of stake is, I think we could say, more environmental. But in our day-to-day lives here, there's a cost of doing business, and I think it's put it this way, I think it's a personal decision. I don't think it's fair. However, I would say I don't think it's fair for people to level heavy judgment on others, let's say, for how dare you use Bitcoin. Because I want to see the comparison with, say, what does the banking sector use for all those buildings? How much concrete? What's the energy for the concrete, for every office chair, for every computer, with the rare earths in the computers, the processors, right? How often do they replace that? What about the terminals? How much energy in the lights are used? So I haven't seen a really fair comparison. If I saw a comparison and Bitcoin was like super high and the banking sector was this tiny thing, I would have to reconsider, because but I'm not convinced, and further, I found it like a fairly ironic argument, like this whole environmental argument against NFT artists by people who, and I'm sure a lot of you have thought this as well, by a lot of artists, traditional artists who use cadmium paints. And then a lot of these artists pour, like if you use acrylic or oil paint, they're often done with cadmiums if you have a red or a yellow. Cadmium's a poison, and you're not supposed to pour this down the drain. A lot of artists do. Okay, just out of convenience. And then, so, at the end of the day, my concern is the reality in terms of these things, because we're dealing with physical reality. You're bringing up a physical reality concern. And what is the carbon footprint? And what is worse for the environment? And I'm still remain unconvinced. And a lot of, there's a lot of renewable energy, and solar powers Bitcoin, from my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. So how much energy is it taking for the canvas, for the stretcher frames, for the paint? which is often toxic with cadmiums. And then that they're going to say, oh, you digital artists in your almost matterless medium, you buy an iPad once, you buy a phone once, which you already had anyway for a lot of people, a computer once, and you're using no, and all of a sudden you're the environmental bandit. So I guess that's sort of my take on it. So I think it's fair. It's a personal decision. I don't think it's fair to level heavy judgment. I think people can have light judgment on it and say, well, I wish people wouldn't do it. But to really attack, I think it's show me the comparison. Like, this would be my challenge to Dan. If you think it's more morally dubious to say put digital art on Bitcoin, show me the carbon footprint then of physical artwork of, say, a meter by a meter and a half, and then doing it with oil paints and cadmiums and the brushes and even the plastic to hold the water, or the oil or the linseed oil, maybe it's a metallic thing, and then where is that stuff going? Is everybody throwing that out properly? So that's kind of my, show me the comparison and then let's continue the conversation is what I would say. But to only talk about Bitcoin without talking about traditional art, I think it's way more environmental, I would suspect, actually, as far as carbon footprint, to work digitally than physically. Now, fair enough on the ETH versus Bitcoin or Tezos versus Bitcoin. But in the big picture, are you going to stop using a car? Are you going to stop living in a house because of the environmental footprint? It's a cost of doing business is how I read it. So let's continue. We have a massive show here. We're already 20 minutes in, and there's too much to go through. Thank you for the comment, though, and I think a legitimate conversation in my mind. So I appreciate it, and feel free if you can do the comparison. I'm all ears and will happily read it here. Rutger, about minting on Bitcoin and reducing the file size of an artwork, it forced me to re-envision my work. It was a challenging route, rendering pieces to smaller sizes in Blender, but trying to keep the essence of what I want to convey with them. Because, of course, as I was noting, it's about, for every 1 kilobyte, costs about $10, in my experience, in the 4 works that I've minted on Bitcoin. So it's not cheap. Going over my work in a different way and paying the hefty fee for minting them gave them a different type of appreciation in my art. And, I was just thinking, what is the cost of AI? AI apparently is a huge energy burner. What is the cost of the internet from a carbon footprint? Are we going to stop using the internet? Right? So, and then what is the cost of using paper instead of the internet? So it's, the comparison needs to be made, and there is a cost of doing business. Sorry, I'll continue here with Rutger. Going over my work in a different way and paying the hefty fee for minting them gave them a different type of appreciation in my art. I agree. I love the challenge of making work small. It's a really fun and interesting, and there's an elegance to making things small and it working. Opening up my workflow and broadening my output. It wasn't the reduction of files that bothered me or challenged the quality of my work in bigger files. Instead, it added a new chapter to my body of work and enriched my tool set. That is exactly how I feel. So definitely sympathetic. Rutgers released a collection on Bitcoin. I've been meaning to message Rutger and ask, how did you do the collection? If you're watching, Rutger, I would love to know how you created the collection. Do you have to request that from Magic Eden, or how do you do the collection? Because I noticed you have a collection there. So that is very cool. And of course, Rutger, again, has work on, I think it's Magic Eden. You can see it. I was looking at it earlier, and it's kind of like Blender 3D work. Rosacho, great show as always. Enjoy your travel. Thank you. And thank you, Rutger, for the travel wishes. So back to Bitcoin. But it's hard. We have to pay attention to this. Look at this. Breaking. Today's the 18th, so December 16th. Ordinal's 24-hour volume skyrockets past $80 million for the first time in history, outcompeting ETH and Sol, which is burning up the market here by more than $60 million. So here are the numbers. And you see here, Bitcoin. Now, it's always kind of tricky because you never know what's being wash sales. But overall, we have to recognize here, 87 million is more than double Solana and Ethereum put together, right? It is, because this is 41 million. This is 87 million. Now, the number of buyers here is impressive as well, 16,000. There are more on Solana, probably because the fees are less. But nevertheless, these are impressive. More buyers than on Ethereum. So that's also a big sign that, again, this is not a space to ignore. Look at this. Volume by marketplace. So here you have the marketplaces too. Unisat, I guess, has a marketplace in OKX, and there's Magic Eden there. So OKX, I'll have to look at their marketplace. So isn't that interesting? Because I think OKX is somewhere, is it Korea? I'm not sure. Mech.txt, there's a wind of change in Sol fine art scene. I can feel it, I can sense it. The pendulum is moving the other way right there for the better, keeping my eyes peeled. So Mech, who of course I follow, that is a Twitter glitch, is considering minting again on Sol. And yeah, the thought, I think, has crossed a lot of our minds with Sol kind of burning up the crypto markets there. Ugo, can you withdraw your Zora L2 ETH without problems? I tried it for more than a month. Yeah, I noticed with the ledger, it's a little tricky. With the final withdrawal, I had to go to mobile MetaMask in order to do it. And so hopefully and it was really expensive, by the way. Like, it was expensive. That whole bridge maybe costs like $100 US, maybe more, which is really expensive. I mean, I'm kind of back to, like, I think these sort of fees, I think, has to really shake the foundations of what crypto is based on. Because the whole idea of crypto is that, one of the ideas is that it's better than the banking system. But if you're paying $100 to make a transaction, I mean, I would be outraged if that was on with my bank. I wouldn't accept it, right? I'd say I'm banking somewhere else. We come to accept this on the blockchain, saying it's early. But it is, I mean, big fees. I think that's why Solana's doing so well. It's the fees on Ethereum that people are basically fed up with. That is my take on that. Charles AI, today isn't my best day, not going to lie. 4 months of work with an innovative, dynamic aspect and a great team building the smart contract and the website. 30,000 views, 600 likes, 300 people asking for allow-less spots telling me they love the art, and 10 mints after 2 hours, even when gas fees cooled off. Could be the gas. Maybe it's the gas. Maybe it's the security scare, of course, because there was a bit of a scare with Ledger there. Maybe it's the art. I don't know. It just feels like a huge failure. Yeah, so just interesting. I'd argue it's probably the gas. I wouldn't see it as a failure. That's part of the business. And maybe it is the art. I don't know. I haven't seen the work, so who knows? At the end of the day, you have to make work that you're happy with, and as long as you're happy with the work, to me it's a win just releasing it and the public seeing it and appreciating it. And hey, 10 mints, like, how much were these being charged? If you're like at point, maybe it was too expensive. Like, there could be all sorts of reasons. I don't know what was being charged there. So here, India Robot, put all my Tezpol in the OnCyber gallery, check them out. So of course, I can't show every Tezpol, which is why I'm showing some of the works here. And so Indio Robot made a gallery, and I thought that was kind of cool. And for those that haven't seen, for people like I actually showed my mom this when I was in Saskatoon. Again, big shout out to Mom. And she was even like surprised because oh, there's an issue with the display. And she's saying, oh, it's probably not a big deal. And then she looked at it, she's like, ooh. That is a problem. So anyway, so this is the display for those that might not have seen it. I mean, I think 80% of this crowd knows it, but just for those that might not know, is controversial display. And Retro Manny with a comment here, who knew the people at Art Basel would be FOMOing the folks who stayed at home making Tezpol art? So a lot of art was made as a result. And I actually thought there's a lot of truth to this comment. And oftentimes when you go to, physical art places, it's not as fun as one would expect. I'm sure a lot of people had a lot of fun out there, but there was this was kind of rang true a little bit. And here's Retro Manny's work here, watching out for falling screens. So the Retro Man spaceship going around the Tezpol here, which I thought was pretty funny. So I've sprinkled a few Tezpol works throughout this episode, so here and there. Now this was, I thought RJ, and there was actually another comment, which I don't think I have here. Unfortunately, it's in the bookmarks, but I thought RJ had pretty much captured how I feel. The other comment, I wish I could remember who it was, but the spirit was kind of the person was saying my expectations are low on these kind of events anyway, so I'm not sure what the big deal is. I did kind of have that sense when I first kind of was looking at the Tez poll. It's like, well, my kind of expectations are fairly low in the sense that if it was done really well, then I'd be surprised. And that's not to put anything against anyone, but it's just, I'm always kind of have pretty low expectations. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, maybe a little lower than I even expected. But anyways, let's look here. I thought RJ had a very interesting thought here. Thought for the day. Digital art is native to our computers and phones, and this is where it is best to view it. The art on the blockchain movement is also the movement towards art on the personal screen. I think this is a very provocative and interesting point, and it rings true. Maybe it is just designed to be seen where we already see it, which is on our phones, on our tablets, and on our computer laptops. Very interesting point, and this was written a little bit earlier, and this is on the Tez poll. Rare drunken thread on art in the poll. The poll has been such a catalyst for the Tezos art community as it reinvigorates the idea of free creativity for the community. This is ironic, as the notion of curation at a specific event, that is Basel, negates this idea of free creativity. The poll and the reaction to the poll to it suggests something to me about the importance of this creativity. Were you on the poll? Were you at Basel? Doesn't matter. Can you make things and share them with people who are interested in them? That's the real question. Should we be aiming at physical representation at shows based upon specialized selection? Is that Web3? I don't know. Is the open and free reaction to the poll fantastic? Yes. So pointing out, put it this way, I think I shared a lot of RJ's view here as well, which is this idea that like as an artist, like put it this way, and I've mentioned this here before, I'm quite skeptical. I'm radically skeptical of the institutions now. That's part of why this show exists for me, is because I just feel like there's a bit of a different narrative. I have just a different narrative, and I don't feel like it's represented at all by what I see in the art news or even on Twitter generally. So I decided, okay, here's my contribution to this discussion. But I totally agree with RJ. Why, like, who needs the approval of Art Basel? Like, I went to Art Basel 10 years ago at Art Basel 2012 in Miami Beach. And I went to the Armory show that year as well, or maybe it was 2013, not sure. I went to Art Contemporary LA. I went to a lot of these art fairs, and frankly, it's not like a surprise. It's not a wonderful experience as an artist. I have much more fun over here on the blockchain, just finding these works that we're discussing here. So like Popples, right? Which is not to be found in the main halls of Art Basel. And so in a sense, it's kind of like, long story short here, kind of who cares about Art Basel? Like, I don't care. Like, and half the time, right, of say like the refraction DAO thing, it's not the official Art Basel. It's during Basel Miami, but really, I think Ugo 42 is like to call him. I think Ugo was pointing out, like, maybe it was in that tweet there that we just saw. Let me just see. Okay, it's a trap. Okay, so I think he had another tweet which was saying, people are disappointed that to paraphrase, that their unofficial Art Basel show wasn't, like, in a sense, pointing out the absurdity of the whole thing. Because, look, you or me, anybody watching this can go set up a little storefront or a little poll, column anywhere that you ask someone, and put up a few screens and say, hey, I'm doing some big art show during Miami Art Week. And then all of a sudden, all the artists, I'm showing at Art Basel. So the whole thing gets ridiculous. To RJ's point, the real thing is being able to show your work to collectors here online and have that direct, rapport and relationship. And that is much more revolutionary than getting approval from Gagosian, right? As important as that is to, making money, your career is made at that point as an artist. But in terms of like the end of all things, like the big picture, I just care less and less, right? Here's another, this is RJ again. The best thing about, to paraphrase, reiterate, the best thing about making art in Web3 seems to be the chance to make it and have it appreciated and collected without the need for any intermediary tastemaker. And I completely agree with this. And so, exactly. So this idea of that we're all going to run to Art Basel and say, yay, we're at Art Basel, and be thrilled about it, as if like it's almost stepping back from the real revolution that's going on here and going, oh, yay, we got approval from the, trad art world, because that's all that is. And I'm not against it, but it kind of reminded me, remember when we were looking at Documenta and those two guys complaining about Documenta and how, Documenta represents the zeitgeist, which it doesn't. But for people that are in their little art world bubble, they think Documenta represents the zeitgeist of, humanity, the human spirit. Okay? And I just think that's totally absurd. And those guys complaining about about what's going on at Documenta and how Documenta is important is kind of the same thing with Art Basel. Like, who cares? Like, it's a new world. We're in a kind of revolutionary space, I would argue. And this is revolutionary, right? So, again, my thoughts are, we already have it beautiful here. And again, what are your costs? Finally, RJ said it so beautifully here. In other words, I don't feel desperate to be curated, as I don't think that should be primary to what we're doing here. If you can post something and someone wants to collect it, and they can, then that's what's revolutionary, not whether your art is good on a screen or not. And so referring to the Tez poll, is on a good screen or not. So exactly, I just would echo everything that RJ is saying there. Another so Alan Survey, who again has this interesting Twitter feed here, it's not huge, commenting on the sales at Art Basel. So just kind of shifting a little bit our discussion to how is the market doing in the trad art world. The top collectors will keep acquiring, even if it means filling storage space after storage space. So those top collectors where money is not an issue, they are still obsessed. And those collectors were very much present at VIP Day, which is usually the first kind of closed. You need an invite, usually at these art fairs, and where everything where the real business happens, really, for the most part. But the market also relies on a steady stream of people who come in and fill up their walls and recede until perhaps they decide to prune their holdings. It's these folks who have disappeared most recently, and it may make a bigger difference than anyone expects. So this was based on an article in Art News by Sarah Douglas on Art Basel Miami Beach. So interestingly, it's not the top collectors. It is the folks who are, not as committed, who are starting to pull back in the traditional art world. So that is just kind of another interesting thing. So here, another interesting aspect of the whole Art Basel situation, which feeds into our other narrative on how is the trad art market doing. Object one, so Evelyn O, whose work we've shown here a few times, has put out this curation, and I thought it was just, a beautiful, first of all, this work is beautiful. We're going to take a closer look in a second, this as well. But look at all the great work, and here's a Spiegelsmaskinen Evelyn O did in, I think, Copenhagen, in a physical art gallery, and it was pretty funny to just see what a great job that Evelyn O did, in terms of the care that can be taken. And there it was, I don't know if it was the Tezos Foundation or a big DAO, that it seems like there was money that could have been spent that wasn't, and here's just one person, maybe a couple, putting the show together, and it looks like a lot fancier. So anyways, big shout out to Evelyn O. Nice show. We're going to see a few works from it today. This was also another interesting discussion here that I just wanted to touch on before it kind of slid through. It's not enough to critique the simulation of painting and digital art, either via AI or another generative process, because we live in a world largely defined by simulations that we accept into our lives without question. The question is, to what end are we simulating a painting? So bringing up this whole idea, which I think is super interesting, In AI and in digital painting, oftentimes we're simulating brushstrokes of physical paint and bringing up this whole, it's too long to read everything here. You know, there, like Andrew, Pixel PA, ends with this question: is it possible to use the tools of simulation, basically all digital image making, to create art that is not itself a simulation of art, right? It's not an imitation of physical brush work, for example, or drawing. And is it possible to recognize that when we see it? I would argue that is what pixel art is. You know, we're back to the kind of mysterious importance of pixel art is it's not a simulation. And feel free to disagree if I'm misunderstanding this for those that might have another idea here. But my thought is pixel art is not a simulation of another art, like of a paintbrush. It is native to the digital medium. And so I would argue pixel art is not a simulation of quote unquote art, as far as I understand Andrew's argument here. So just interesting, but an interesting discussion because it's true. You know, a lot of AI art, like Strange Thing, I love Strange Things work, but here it's a simulation of a painting. But I find it kind of weirdly postmodern in a good way, these kind of simulations of sorts. So just kind of interesting. There's also a debate, you know, the debate of using the word painting. Someone was saying that AI artwork was a painting and then kind of doubled down on it. As far as I understood, Sky Goodman, I often call the things I create with analog video hardware paintings as well. So many things can be a painting. And I often refer to AI art as, you know, paintings or digital art pieces as paintings. So I agree. I think Sabato was saying the same thing. I think it's fine to take an AI generated image and say this is a painting. It's kind of like a looser way of talking about it, but an artwork. I do it all the time with photography because these definitions will ultimately reflect the practices of their times. The thing is, you have to own it and state that claim, right? And so he's just saying, or they are saying, you have to be transparent about it, as far and state that, you know, it's using photography. As far as I understand the argument. Continuing on just with some displays here, Lorna Mills, love guerrilla art exhibitions. Thanks for including me. So this is at Wynwood, Miami, which is near, I think this is kind of like the trendy area. I was there once when I went there, even back in 2012. It was a thing. It's kind of where all the graffiti was and all the kind of artist-run spaces. It's probably still like that. Projecting Lorna Mills' art also featured in the Forbes article by Caballero Anima. Robness official snapping a pic. Art vertically projected from 64-gallon toter with internal batteries. So there's the toter, and there's the Lorna Mills there. So some guerrilla art here using a projector of Lorna Mills with that famous scene, I assume from Aliens, or a different version of that. A slower, friendlier version of that scene from Alien. Love it. So very cool display there. And here's another one from Cyber Mystic. Look at this. We'll see where this is, but a pretty impressive display because you have to imagine these are probably all moving, right? Of course, Cyber Mystic's work. My work in Dubai canvas. So pretty wild. People just kind of mesmerized probably by Cyber Mystic's work here. Rosatio. Here's another one, Super Chief Gallery. An alternative guide to the universe by Rosatio. So another pretty nice display here. From Super Chief. This is, I think, in New York, if I'm not mistaken here. And continuing, and here is Pamela Cerrone. Plaza Italia. Where is this? El Pami El Subte. So it looks like in Buenos Aires. So almost looking like a billboard of sorts, but looking actually more like a small screen. And, you know, maybe somewhere to buy your tickets. And there's Pamela Cerrone. So that is great. Of course, Pamela was on the Spaces a week ago, was it? Or 2 weeks ago? A week and a half ago. This was quite interesting, too, just on the subject of displays. Jesus Touch 2015 by Electro Boutique. Ari Stark, Chershnishev, and Alexei Shulgin. I thought it was kind of a lighthearted, you know, you get these different crucifixes that you basically swipe through. And I thought kind of a powerful commentary. And how, you know, it kind of makes you, I think, a radical juxtaposition of how religion fits into our modern technology and the awkwardness of that relationship. And I think you see it here. I think it's done really, it's made very kind of present to you, this wild juxtaposition of, these, it shows how much the culture has changed, right? So I thought just a interesting piece there. Kit Velo, playing around with Hither Dither from Somfay, I'm completely and utterly smitten by this interactive work of art that deserves immortalization. So just nice work here on the TV here. I think it's by Somfay. And just a nice Buddha, again, traditional kind of religion juxtaposed with modern technology, working a little better here, though. Like here, it's not an awkward juxtaposition. It's it kind of works out quite beautifully. Almost the visionariness of the Buddha mixing with the kind of, the analog glitchery, right? And here's Tezos. I ordered these stickers to hand out in Miami. So again, glitch artist working with physicals. Remember the Polaroids? They showed up today. I guess I'll have to mail them to people eventually. So more interesting physical art from Tezos here. Look at this solution here with the kind of sparkly paper to evoke the movement of the glitch. Pretty smart and fun and cool. Another great solution. And this is what Rada sent out in the mail. Uxine just received the most amazing mail from Rada Yankee. So look at this. For those that picked up the token there, you got an original Rada and then some great stickers, a couple of printouts of maybe that Medici piece on the horse and the Herald, I believe it is, and just other Rada works here, drawings and stickers. So super cool there. Random color session from Ugo. So this is using Graphics 2 from the 90s. Because I was wondering as well, what program is this? So it has the horse, and you see, look at all these sliders here just for color. So who knew Graphics 2? I didn't realize you could load stuff in. Maybe it's all made with Graphics 2, or maybe just the image is loaded up and playing with gradations. I didn't realize, look how elaborate it is. It's pretty cool. It just selects certain colors and then changes them. Anyway, very cool. Graphics 2. Ezra Eslin, I'm breaking up with my iPad. So working with physical. I'd be very curious to see Ezra Eslin's physical artwork. So that is cool. It's a funny thing going back to physical after working digitally for a while. It's a whole other kind of relationship with your art and with the whole medium. It is a different medium. Object 1. So Why I Walk Alone, this was part of Evelyn's curation here. The artist is Behair. I thought it was a pretty nice work. Let's see if we can make it large here. Again, kind of has a bit of a woodcut feel and a touch of Basquiat here, and just a beautiful, beautiful painting. Really nice painterly work of this, what I think is a digital painting here. Almost looks like, weirdly, looks like that looks like texture that you can bring in. So again, we're just discussing that in that Andrew tweet, I think it was, the simulation of painting here. And here we have a beautiful simulation of painting by this artist Behair. So did this sell? It sold for 800 Tezos. Nice sale on Object 1. And here is that show. Dostoevskian Echoes in the Digital Age. Here's the write-up by Evelyn. And here is the show. So again, too much to go through here today, but I think I brought up the Spiegels for later. And yeah, just a cool exhibition from Evelyn O on Object 1. So check that out. And so as we go into the art here, Rat Cloak, and I'm going to go pretty fast through this because we're already at the 48-minute mark and we're starting the art. So I'm going to have to run through the rest of this episode, okay? Charles Lancaster and his girlfriend in a bar somewhere on the roadside. So interesting painting here, kind of a different feel to it from Rat Cloak, and kind of a dark figure here, and just an interesting, fun painting. Wild Woody's Food Center, Happy Foods, a tank in the background, and just interesting art piece by Rat Cloak. This was an edition of 10. It sold out at 35 Tezos. Now I think it's 80 on secondary. Beautiful work there. Here's another one, Black Cat. Also, now, are these in the same series? They are. Crisis. And of course, Rat Cloak is in Ukraine right now, where there is most definitely a crisis. So one assumes that perhaps that's related there. Black Cat. Nice, again, painterly work here. Let's just see if we can load this up larger. And there we are. So just to get a better look at this, so interesting work here. This looks like it was probably made on Procreate. Interesting piece here, beautifully painterly work here by Ratcloak, who again, a lot of digital artists, to that simulation comment, started as painters as well. And, I like, this is cool, this little chemical here, molecule, and then the Donald Duck, which we've seen in other works. A lot of, I like the textures I see in simulated painting, say on Procreate, more than I like on physical work now. Generally, not always, but just oftentimes. Let's put it that way. You can get wonderful, beautiful painterly textures as we see here from Ratcloak. Look at all the color in here too, and it's almost like these drips, but they're not. They're just pieces that are left empty. Just interesting work here by Ratcloak. Recollapse, another painting here. One Day in a Park, and so this is an edition of 15, and there's one left on secondary. So I think we looked at, I think it's Recollapse. We looked at Recollapse the other day, and here's another work. Again, kind of a surreal work here with power line and birds and lights and a soccer game in the background, and then a tennis game in the foreground, people watching. So again, just a surreal art piece. Very cool work. ATV, Opioids Crisis Party. So I think Mikey Wilson actually retweeted this one out. And an interesting painting here by an artist I don't think I've seen before. Beautiful blue in the jeans. This is very much an oil painter kind of denim here. Color in the blue, seemingly. Edition of 1. This is AI. Is that right? It says AI in the tags. I would never have guessed. It looks like maybe it's a combination. Sold for 8 Tezos. Wow, so that's probably an AI painting. Incredible. So continuing on, Board Me Social Club, or a BMSC, Eyewitness, a digital painting here. And again, a surreal work here, kind of a hints of Delvaux. And you see here almost a hint of Dali here with this egg that kind of drips over, the shadow dripping over the bricks here. Just an interesting work. It's a combination of Delvaux, Magritte, and Dali, seemingly. And interesting looking at this sphere. Not sure, kind of ominous sky background, Eyewitness, kind of an enigmatic title. Edition of 10, there are 6 left at 5 Tezos. And Rare put this out. This is a combination, available in 7 days. This looked like a combination of, I thought it was maybe an RJ, but I think a 1 of 1 available in 7 days, December 17th, from Car from the Sky. So maybe this is the artist, Rich Caldwell. 12 Days of Christmas alongside of some amazing artists. So it looks like a collab where Rare puts in the dog. I'm not exactly sure which. And then this looks like another artist, I guess, Rich Caldwell. So just make sure, I may already follow that artist, but just to make sure. And here's another Rare, since we're on Rare, and here was Rare's Tezpole here, putting the robotic dog on the pole here, so that was pretty funny. There were so many great artworks that came out. It's hard, I just sprinkled in a few here. Here is Rosetto with new works here in a skull series, and kind of changing things up a little bit. Nice painterly background there, and some eyes moving across the screen here, and skulls, fire, human machine, in the writing. And this is an edition, I think it is an edition, digital collage and digital drawing, 65 frame animation. And here is another one, Realizing the Illusion, and that's part of Digital Overload, and this other one is part of another collection, I think the Skull collection. This is a reserve of 0.25, and this was also just released December 13th in Skullscapes, Beyond the Bone. So more skulls here. And a little mushroom here. So cool work by Rosetto, kind of collage and painting put together. Love this. The dance by Matisse in the background there. Really nicely done. Very nice. Uxine, Last Selfie. This is on Manifold, interestingly. And so bidding starts, looks like a 1 of 1. Based on Last Selfie by Xcopy. And this was just released here. And so just another cool, so it looks like an MP4, interestingly, I'm guessing by the play button here. And based on a Xcopy, and so the Last Selfie, so maybe person with no head, and then you see the skull in the computer. Nicely painted here, long dally-like shadows. And here is that work that it is based on. So interesting interpretation here. This is the work by Xcopy. So this is from 2019. So interesting. We'll see if it loads up. And there it is, kind of nicely, roughly painted here. And there is a new Xcopy here, Simulacrum. So we're getting certain themes here. So Simulacrum is, so here we have a new Xcopy. It was an addition playing with this kind of square grid kind of brush style outline. And here you have a phone kind of roughly done, but with hard edges and what looks like two people on a phone, or two figures on a phone, called Simulacrum. Or maybe that's two eyes. This is someone looking at a phone. Okay, we're starting to figure it out here. Interesting title, interesting piece. 114,000 views, pretty good. 321 retweets. So of course it's Xcopy, so we shouldn't be shocked by that. Interesting piece. And Uxine, I meant to put this with the other Uxines here. Uxine's Tezos, well played Tezos. So one of the first Tezos to come out, I think. And they're an open edition, put out almost referencing the crucifixion here with the INRI, I think. Instead putting Tezos at the top with a big tarantula on top. So pretty hilarious. And a little Uxine sticker there. How many of these? 419, and I think sold at 5 Tezos each. So I think a cool 2,000 Tezos for Uxine there. Nicely played. If you hop on these memes, you can really do well. RJ, Mondrian's Desktop, a continuation of Mondrian's Desktop. 50 curated outputs made in P5.js. So different, so playing with Windows screens, making kind of these modern day Mondrians. And so they all look kind of similar, though, don't they? I wonder if when you load them up, if they're different. So I assume these are different colors, so a play on Pierre Mondrian. The thumbnails look similar, but I assume they're different. So minted for 0.02. Check it out. And also, RJ's been putting out a homage to the window, which I haven't brought up here, which is kind of a similar like series using Windows, but was retweeted by Windows, is what I wanted to repost. Windows actually reposted homage to the window. Microsoft Paint rework of the series Homage to the Square by Joseph Albers. So RJ putting out a ton of work here, and a lot of it, most of it selling. So again, I think we just saw this here. So, okay, so we see the different versions here. Perfect. This is what I was looking for by RJ in that series. And here's Gozo. Thank you, Illusional, for collecting. I'm not sure if this is a newer work out of another Gozo here, but just I'd never seen this Gozo before, and it's a cool looking abstract, animated abstract work here. And of course, Gozo also does these great digital collage, kind of AI-like collages. Our residual time, and again, there's something just very modern feeling about these works here, and so just beautiful textures. I think using Stable Diffusion, as we see here, SD materials. Scamra also uses Stable Diffusion, kind of creates some pretty cool textures, I think. I've never tried it myself. Edition of 10 and sold out at 15 Tezos. Continuing on, Dylan, Untitled. Another great work here by Dylan. Again, kind of a simulation of a painting, right? I believe digitally made, and even here, you see the simulation in the 1 of 1 Untitled 2023, and this great little frame here. It's kind of 1 pixel, but here it's like 2 or 3 pixels. Nice work here, even the light color change, and again, simulated paper, one assumes, or scanned, right? Nice abstract work too when you look at the actual composition. You know, the contrast of those thin lines with the big thick lines. I thought this was great too. Van Gogh's Pepe by Wasteman Goldminovich. I thought a pretty nice work here. This is a 1 of 1, kind of done in a Vincent's, playing off of the Vincent, almost like a satire really of Van Gogh. Highest bid 6 Tezos 66, still active auction for another 3 hours. Nice piece, nice painting by Wasteman Goldminovich. And here's another one using more traditionally. This is also, remember we discussed the pixel as being natively digital. I would argue this brush here is also like the hard contoured brush stroke. This is also something that is, I would argue, natively digital. Like I play with it. If we had more time, I'd show you. Like in the Screen Memory series, like perfect circles. Those also, I'd argue, are natively digital. So there's the pixel art, which I'd argue is natively digital and not a simulation of quote unquote painting. I'd argue also this brush here, this sort of hard contour brush that also can make perfect circles and everything. I'd argue that brush as well is natively digital. Feel free to disagree and leave a comment. Failed artist number 53, The Imposter. So this is quite hilarious too on a content level. Seaside Hummus House, organic veggies. So rather than McDonald's, this is the Imposter artist, the North Face, the North Fake, the U on his or her, I assume his BMX here, and maybe a vape of some kind, rather than cigarettes. No smoking. So another a satire of the satire. A Tezos edition of 7. Cool work. Always interesting. Oh my God, I drawed it. Artificial Paradise. I believe this was for Art Basel. I was at Art Basel Miami once way back in 2021. So I believe this work was displayed at Art Basel, and a nice piece here showing the artist's studio and even like a vending machine here, and just a really cool illustration. Artificial Paradise, edition of 101, 1969 here on secondary, so nice market. I'm not sure what this sold out at. There's probably too many to check here. Oh, just transferred. So maybe a free delivery there, maybe to previous collectors. This is kind of remind me of Adele. This artist, you could hang in the same show, this kind of manga, like anime, like drawing style. You know, again, very reminiscent of Adele, Bus Stop, even the subject matter. A 1 of 1, only 17 Tezos, still available, by the way. This has been out for a while. Really nice piece here. 1 of 1 for 17 Tezos from this artist, La Luna Art, who I don't think I've seen before. I want to make sure I follow them. And let's look at their art. I don't, so let's make sure. So here is some of their other art. So a ton of 1 of 1s here. Here's another one available. Here's another one, 12 Tezos. So a little bit of a find here. And continuing on, Smonter with Smonter's version of the Tezos here. And I thought this was great. And again, Smonter always kind of has a bit of a sci-fi feel. So here it is, almost this desert with phones on the pole here. This strange monument, beautifully put, is the last testimony that there was a form of sentient life on this planet. Brilliant, brilliantly done by Smonter. Only 5 sold, only 4 sold, 46 left at 2 Tezos. Here is Uyo 66. Let me see if I can make this bigger. Maybe I can't, unfortunately. And so here is why is this so small? There we go. Computer is running slow. Are we still recording? We are. Okay, we're still in business here. An hour in, so there's a ton more to get through here. So Uyo 66 with a great poll here too. Look at how beautiful this is. People put this work together really fast, which is also, you know, almost to RJ's point, right? Like, and it's important, and sure, I would love to be in the main area of Art Basel and for Gagosian to show my work and say, look at how great this is. Adrian Pocobelli, everybody, I'd be rich overnight with people wanting to buy my artwork. Who doesn't want that? However, as RJ's pointing out, the larger matter here from just a substantial, one could argue, historical perspective here, Tezos. Tezos comes out, that is a modern day exhibition, right? What happened there, you know, using a hashtag, right? And then you have NFT Biker giving us a page, just like the screensavers, right? Which hopefully I'll show some tomorrow if I remember and there's time and there's space. But just like screensavers, that is our modern day, our, you know, contemporary, our present day exhibition space. To RJ's point, I agree. It's the screen. I find it hard to disagree with what RJ is saying, is what I'm saying. I find it very hard to disagree with this idea. The screen is our exhibition space. And maybe we need to stop trying to fight that, in a sense, by, you know, how are we going to display it physically? Maybe this is where it's supposed to be enjoyed. You know, interesting question. And then look at how fast it all came together. Another quality characteristic of the modern day digital art space. So these are all, things we kind of had an idea with, but when something like Tezpol or even the screensaver thing happened, the screensavers on Tez, all of a sudden, like, that is our modern day exhibition space, and that's worth noting, right? Sometimes the most obvious things are the hardest and slowest to figure out because they're right in front of you, right? It's, and I'm not a Heidegger person, but the one quote I like from Heidegger is, or idea is, we need distance. We need distance from things to get a better perspective on them. And, sometimes a little bit of distance, and I feel like that kind of exhibition space, it gives us a bit more perspective. Let's continue on here. Visual Spirits here on Instagram. Nice illustration. Hey, I assume digital, but not absolutely clear on that. Kind of has a Uyo 66, like could hang in the same show. Let's put it that way. Really cool artist here. But also would make wonderful Riso prints with this style of printing. Nice work there. Here is, and Gogolitis has a work on foundation that I forgot to bring up. I wrote a note. Hopefully I can bring it up tomorrow. Look at this great collaboration between Gogolitis and Manidal. And actually Super Chief has a pixel art exhibition. Hopefully tomorrow I will remember to kind of graze through that or browse that. So this is a great collaboration here. Of course, Gogolitis doing a lot of these pixel art machines and Manidal often doing the cats. And here you see a real fusion of the two styles here in the big robot cat, where some of these kind of game-like cats are coming into the whatever this is, the digital oven, not sure. Anyway, great piece here from Gogolitis. Still only $2.99, edition of 188, iteration from Gogolitis and Manidal. Cool collab. And here's Manidal's Tezpol. Emoji Purr. So cool. Cool piece there. Fun from Manidal. There's no volume. And continuing on, here's also John with a Tezpol. I thought this was particularly brilliant in just kind of a loopy, as a loop. It's like the endless pole here, and kind of capturing a lot of the weird crop and the black line. I thought this was quite brilliant, using John's style of the grid, right? So recognizably John's work. I thought this was quite brilliant, and really, easy to downplay. Not necessarily that easy to put this kind of noise, static noise in each of these screens. Knows what he's doing, clearly. Only 4 Tezos, open edition, 800 mints. Wow. I wonder what this minted for. Ed Marola has a ton of one-of-ones. They're going for very cheap because he's putting a lot out. It's kind of like a clearinghouse sale. Well, this went for no sale. You might be able to put an offer in on this. I think a really nice piece here by Ed Marola, again, putting out a lot of 25 Tezos one-of-one works. He put out a tweet yesterday saying, I'm making art for the rest of my life, so here is an opportunity to get some cheap Ed Marola works. Of course, Ed's account on ETH was hacked, as far as I remember. So now trying to make up the funds probably with a clearinghouse sale. Read more, AI and Procreate. So this is using AI and Procreate. I think this sold. Again, I love how small these works are. There's something really interesting and kind of delightful about small artworks. This sold to Aw Heck for 25 Tezos, a one-of-one. And here, as you can see here, this is Ed Marola's page here. One-of-one. You see all one-of-ones. You could probably put offers in. There is a clearing that is going on here. Look at all this. So tons of one-of-ones going on line here from Ed Marola. A lot of them selling. Most of them. The opening, Yuri J. So another Tezpol piece. I thought quite brilliant, done in Yuri J's style. It is amazing. This is a gorgeous work. And here you have the Yuri J octopus putting up some Tez art pieces. A really nice piece. Maybe you almost wonder if this was already kind of half put together and then just put a pole in the middle or something. A really nice piece and came together pretty quickly. Edition of 30, selling out for 8 Tezos. Nice sale there. And Gloomtube, a one-of-one. I didn't realize this was a one-of-one. Went for auction for 153 Tezos to Hologram Gallery. Chi Moscow Jackson, I believe. So cool, getting a Gloomtube one-of-one. And here is the Tezpol again. And kind of looks like 2001, the Monolith. A Space Odyssey, the opening scene of the I don't know, are they monkeys or whatever they are, the apes worshiping the monolith. Nuv 1914 with a really more just cool work here. Very cool artist, I think out of Latin America. And just looks like two figures dancing here and with flowers on top, gradient flowers, and then these kind of radical gradients to make the plants here. So just more radical work from Nuv 1914. El Cariño, the nice one maybe? Not sure. Yuri J picks it up for 10 Tezos. Really cheap one-of-ones coming from Nuv 1914. Zoso, kind of a similar gradient here. Again, these two could show in the same show, couldn't they? We'll see if this loads up. Oh, maybe no volume on this one. Look at how great this is. Just really cool work by Zozo. And this is 3 Tezos edition of 20. There are 13 left, and I'm pretty sure this has volume. Unless, my one, let's see. Okay, we're good. We're good. Hour and 10 minutes. Look at how awesome this is. Let me make this big. I love Zozo's work. And the music is great. It sounds like reverse, something in reverse. Beautiful, beautiful work. Super interesting, fun, and delightful. I was almost wondering, like, you see right here, kind of Nuv 1914 like gradients here too. I was almost like, are these the same artist? I don't think they are, but they could be. Martin Broek with some really interesting artwork. Worm over landscape. Look at these. What's so interesting is there's kind of a print feel to them, but then they're pixelated. Let's see if we can open this bigger. I think this is probably full size. Like, it almost looks like print. A print feeling that's been rendered into pixel, that's been kind of pixelized, and then put with an analog video kind of process, like layer or processing. And then you look at the actual thing. I mean, it's like these circles, almost like these interesting brushes that look like they're clicked each time, or perhaps maybe repeated. This weird sun in a landscape. I mean, completely original, unusual work here. From Martin Bruce, maybe I'll call him Martin Bruce. 10 Tezos, edition of 12, Worm over Landscape, 900 by 700, nice and small, cool GIF. Multi-Windows is a series. Look at this, too, media offline. I mean, this looks like I don't know if it's like an Apple TV type app or something. Screen, I mean, just so out of left field here. And again, you see like this TV glitch snow combined with painting. With digital painting, Worm Premiere. This one was quite beautiful too. This is a 1-of-1. I don't think listed. Oh, it's burned. Maybe there's another one. Again, I thought another really cool 1-of-1 on object here. Let's see if it's for sale. No, burned. Interesting. So there you see it. And here's another one here. And this is at auction for 25 Tezos. Ooh, I might have to put a bid in here, get a reasonably priced Martin Bruce. Sometimes you can walk away with fantastic deals. I'll never forget the rustic digital art piece, the 1-of-1 that I got for something like $1 because it had just gone off the radar, and then I managed to come in with 10 minutes left and then pick up this wonderful 1-of-1 for a Tezos. He was a good sport about it. He's like, well played, Pocobelli. That was about a year and a half ago. That was hilarious. Anyways, here might be another Cobra's Light Violet, just another cool Martin Broek for only 25 Tezos. Here's Osborne on Instagram. And you see Osborne's style, but doing a Dali watch here. So a cool homage here. And up close, too, you see the pixelation. So just cool work by Osborne, cool homage. And Ugo Digi, Pinkies. So some more flowers here. And again, that organic, curvilinear, flower, biological, organic shapes hitting the hard digital squares here. Great contrast here. And brilliantly done with this kind of almost this flowing gradient here. I'm not sure if this is used, if this is like a deluxe paint gradient or not. Kind of has that feel though, doesn't it? A deluxe paint from Amiga. Here's also Ugo doing a Tezos poll. Just cool, nice and simple. And so everybody taking part in the fun here. It's cool just the speed. And that was a whole other discussion that I didn't even touch. I think Xcopy was bringing it up, about how if you spent 4 years on your artwork, don't blame me. Like this sort of comment. And a lot of people were commenting. And I have to say, and I've told this story before, but very quickly, I used to spend like basically a year on a painting on average. For 3 years I did, in these big oil paintings. And, I was so glad to put that model behind me. One day I just made a painting in a night. I said, this is driving me. First of all, it's torturous. It's not fun. Then one night I made a painting and I was like, when I was done, I just gave myself one evening to make it. And then when I was done, I thought to myself, I think I like this one as much as the other ones that I'm spending a year on. A Copernican revolution, as I like to call it. I never looked back, and I never went back to that series. Like, that was it. Quite interestingly, Tired Pixels, Armilk. Really nice piece. This is not a photo, a bit of a Magritte reference, one thinks. Combining a little bit of pet ski with the different other processes. Nice piece here. Original Tired Pixels from Armilk. Now 44 Tezos on secondary. Nice piece there. And of course, the great Hasdrubal Waffle on Zora. A few works are coming out here. I think I just minted this piece. So it's always, you probably got to be fast here. I don't know what this is called, if there is a title. And here is the work, though. So I don't see the title, and maybe that's just this page. I'll just quickly... I don't know if there's a title. Okay, it looks like just icons for titles here. That is the title. This snake and the manhole here, or the sewer hole. And here is another one. So again, I'd be tempted to call it untitled, but using icons to title it. So just some interesting figures here. And that is not available anymore. This one was fantastic. So just really cool Hasdrubal Waffle pieces on Zora. And here's another one. You can still own it. 41 people minted. There's Yuri J commenting. And here it is big. So great pieces here from Hasdrubal Waffle. And this post was deleted. Always mysterious here. But it was on Zora. Yeah, I'm on Zora exclusively now. Now, we've heard this before. So we'll see if it's for real this time. So hasdrubalwaffle.exe is the new Twitter handle there. Continuing on, Muji. This is part of a show, what is it called? Maybe Digital Nostalgia. So unfortunately, we can't maximize, but this is... So this sold for 0.07 ETH, and this is, of course, Muji. And I think this is on ETH. It is. Sold for 0.07 ETH, so nice piece, kind of stretching out the color palette a little bit here. And here is Demon Ego, 10 Tezos here, and this is on Object, so nice piece here from Demon Ego, who of course we had on the Space recently. And the best horror movie of 1983, and we're hearing how horror movies had a huge influence on Demon Ego, and look at this. Even the sequence here. Nice kind of strip. Super interesting artist. Combining mediums, doing interesting things. Has a bit of a different feel to it, doesn't it? This recent one, edition of 10, and there are 8 left, 10 Tezos each. Renato Marini, Good Intentions, pixel art. So this is from about a month ago. I don't think we saw this one, but I thought it was just very fun. The colors here, and beautiful. Good Intentions, pixel art. 1 of 1 for 77 Tezos. Interesting, from Renato Marini. PP Universal and Ugo collaborating. And here is Nintendo Game Boy. And boy, written kind of different, dot matrix. So here it looks like Ugo. And then around with all of the different textures and outlined, and in the outlines looks like PP Universal. As we continue our art marathon here, we're at 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm going to speed up a little bit more, but we're doing well. We're on our way. KF, Kyle Flemmer, Traveling Sideshows. So this is, of course, one of my art fantasies is to do Ultima 4. So Kyle beating me to the punch here. So it looks like making his own landscapes, really, of using the Ultima 4. I guess you'd call it, is it the tile deck or tiling? Look at how cool this is. So Mecha Course also uses this. You can do this in the new Aspirite version. There is a way to do tiling. So so probably the thing to do is to take one of those tile decks, I'm probably calling it the wrong thing, and then to start making your own grass, right? I think that's what Mech did. You make your own trees, make your own mountains, and all of a sudden you have your own work. So anyways, super interesting here from KF. Amazing the Third with a Nintendo glitch ROM, Romputing Hypercorruption. So a cool kind of abstract, hey? Cool glitch ROM abstract. Gotta love it. Available 1 of 1 for 42 Tezos. Here's Haiti Rocket with a glitch ROM 0 XP. So cool and pretty abstract here, except for the skeleton with the sword. Great piece there. And here's Nifty Monkey, who put out an edition of 17. And here is one side is a diptych. And here is the other side. So interesting piece here. Of course, Nifty Monkey gets tons of views here. 1 of 17 editions of Sweet and Sour. So I guess this is sweet with the pineapple here and sour over here. So interesting work there. Here's Spugels from Evelyn's show, from Evelyn O's show, Unexist. Cool title. And let's see if this plays. My computer is playing very nicely here, so hopefully it continues. Let's see if we can back up here. Here we go. So we won't play the whole thing, but pretty rad piece here with some, almost John Lennon-like glasses here. Spectacles. Pretty cool. This is only 15 seconds in from Spugels, so, continuing to stretch the techniques. Sold for 1,000 Tezos to Bijou, who likes the 1 of 1s. And continuing on, this is Cream. I think Bijou is actually Ellie Trader. Cream Safa Strata is now in the collection of Ellie Trader. So this is from that show we were just looking at with the Muji work on Aka. So I'm not sure what was paid for this, but I'm pretty sure that was in that Digital Nostalgia series. Kind of a different take for Cream Safa. Different kind of style here. Kind of representational, three-dimensional. And this kind of had a bit of a same sort of feeling here of the pole. This is Brain Dead. I thought another nice kind of Tez pole work. Kind of referencing the Banksy famous event where the Banksy got shredded in the middle of the auction there, but putting it on the pole. Cool commentary and nicely executed. Here is also from that show that we were just discussing with Muji and Cream Safa. Here is Cap'n. And this was sold for 0.08 ETH Illumina, which is still $160. Not bad, maybe more, $170. Not bad at all. So here's, again, I'd say still a very strong, healthy market for digital art here. Illumina 3.14, so nice piece here. Almost making it for the show. And here's details. The memory viewer operates seamlessly within the Astral dashboard. So Cap'n here is, combining just the dithering and then putting like this older artwork with, you can see there's some static pixels on top of the moving pixels, which gives it its unique feel. Cap'n doing beautiful work here and a nice explanation, as you can see here, of all the different elements that went into this piece. Look at how great this is. Human code, dithering oneness. There's so much imagination in these works. Memories. All of this went into this piece. So pretty cool on the aka.art. And that was curated by Brendan Tadler. Cap'n. A couple of others that were just, and I follow Cap'n, of course, a couple other works that were posted by Cap'n here. And cool Dark Prophet. And also Figments doing the Tezpol, which is also Cap'n. So doing a Figments version of Tezpol. We'll see how many, I thought this is brilliant. Beautifully done. And then this 90 editions sold. I wonder what they were selling for on Primary. A lot of them went for pretty cheap, 3.14 Tez, but still making $270. Not bad at all. Here is Sabato Nautilus drawing exercises. And so I think playing off of the original picture that was posted where there's some guy looking on a cell phone. And so I thought this was great. Homage here to the Tezos. And then, of course, there's the one with the sideways. One of the pictures was displayed sideways, if you hadn't seen that. And I think there's a Lorna Mills. I think this is the Lorna Mills. So pretty funny. And, of course, the animals, I can't remember what they're called, chupacras maybe, that Sabato loves looking at them, putting their own kind of spin on the whole thing. Continuing on, Tom Bombadil, the Atomic Courier. As we continue our marathon show here, I hope to finish quite soon here. Atomic Bong on a wagon, a little boy or a fat boy, as they were called. And here is a kind of a skull farmer of sorts with its robotic, kind of sci-fi retro pixel art from Tom Bombadil. I think also in the Super Chief show. This was also interesting. Kyle Flemmer. A Wild Missing Numbers collab series, so kind of a reference to it looks like some sort of video game, kind of has a Super Mario feel, but maybe different. Almost feels like Element Lee here in certain areas, Macbeth, so just a mysterious work here, only a Tezos edition of 68. And Chaz with another super cool, what I'd call pixel art painting, kind of retro style here, and at an angle. So playing at a different angle here, really nice piece. How much is this selling for? Rubik's Cube at the top there. Edition of 10 sold out at how much? At only three Tezos and accepting offers, and 7 Tezos. Here's Element Lee. I thought this was brilliant. I absolutely adore this work. Easier said than done. One of one. So of course we had these guys on the Twitter space. I collect a lot of pieces that I refer to as mind maps. To me, infinite canvas, this means a grouping of symbols, often with unclear or highly subjective relations, that ask for connection. Element Lee breaks this type of work down into a pure digital simplicity. Made on a phone, 128 by 128 parallelogram. This is brilliant. And I'd argue, as someone who's worked on a phone a lot, this is the kind of work that would only be made on a phone. Because of the smaller canvas, it changes the dynamic of how you're working. And that's what I see here. And it creates a fresh kind of take on composition, I would argue, because you're working on a different style of canvas, different size, scale of canvas. Beautiful work, like a beautiful abstract, like it just kind of hits right away. These were brilliant too by Klaus, Composition 02. These were gorgeous. Look at that. As we make our way here, one of one, let's just see what that sold for. 12 Tezos, huge deal. Here's another one going for auction, sold for 10 Tezos. I think these are very, very nice. Would hang beautifully with Kiro's work. These kind of animated video glitch abstracts. And here's Kurt Hustle Collective, Haiti Rocketto. So giving Haiti Rocket the sumo wrestler treatment here. Just brilliant, and the kind of Japanese infomercial. And you see almost a Haiti Rocket in the background there. Brilliant. Edition of 3. So from Kurt Hustle Collective. Here's Eitzo with doing score with another glitch portrait here. So, of course, this series has been totally awesome. And Eitzo was saying, like, trying to mix bigger and smaller artists, and just, I love this series. And usually it comes with a Polaroid for the highest bidder. Psycho Ihara. Very cool. Look at these works by Bosque Gracias. Beautiful addition to the series here, taking these old negatives and splicing them. And there it looks like a Picasso, and maybe with an older, or even like some sort of older, maybe 18th, 19th century painting there. It says here in the details, we don't have time. Let's keep going. Dance, swim, cry, or not. Another awesome juxtaposition. This looks like, I'd argue, this looks like the Forum in Rome. These look like Roman columns, and with a scuba diver, beautiful color. I mean, this series. Let's see if we can, I don't know if it says where. This is part of the Women's Museum Art Girls Gang event. And I don't see if it says, this looks like the Forum though. That is in Rome, I believe. Just calm or not, so a Gauguin with a red colored, just beautiful, these juxtapositions here. Landscape here, kind of a surreal juxtaposition, and they just look gorgeous. Just calm or not. Edition of 55, 6 Tezos each. And here is Louis. I thought this was just a really cool concept, Mind Gallery. It's good to keep in mind that not only does what we create come from our imagination, but also we release it into reality that is also created in our imagination. So I just thought kind of a cool, the mind as a stage kind of idea, which I thought was pretty cool. And Nico Alerci, this was posted, I believe, by Mech, and I thought this was hilarious. Another great, like the 3D test poll. So pretty hilarious there. Let's continue. Parsa Mostagim with a really cool work. Just got sold for 0.8 ETH thanks to Kyle's Fletcher. So nice sale. 0.8 ETH for this super original artwork by Parsa Mostagim. And here's Martin Joe, the only screensaver, actually, that made it in here. Flying Bears. There's a whole bunch, hopefully, that I'll put tomorrow. There's some, so doing the Kinky Bears as a screensaver. Really nicely done. And yeah, hopefully I'll put a whole bunch more of the screensavers tomorrow. The Dolphin and the Mermaid, this was also part of that ACA show. And let's just... Yeah, the Milaya is the artist here, and yeah, here is the work, and I believe uses some AI. Milaya times AI. Sorry, guys, going an hour and a half into this, so we're running through this now as we run into the AI, and here is more works. There's the Kareem Safa we were looking at. There's the Gozo work. There's the Muji, and of course, Datura has a piece. So as you see, there's just too many works to go through, Cap'n. So just a quick, I think we looked at that Dan Control a few days ago. So here's that exhibition, very cool, Digital Nostalgia by Tadler there. And here, curated by Tadler. I'm not going to be able to get to that tab, unfortunately, again. A strange thing, continuing to dazzle with some cool Renaissance art, AI art paintings with some money being washed. Interesting commentary. Good morning, Art Fam. So interesting with the HSBC on the logo on, and this is another thing, you know, speaking of the ethics of banks, right? Like, it's not like, you know, someone was bringing this up. I think it was BlackRock. There's the BlackRock people who are trying to bring up who are bringing up the Bitcoin ETF on CNBC. They're saying, you know, what about the sketchiness that's going on from a trading perspective with Bitcoin? And then the guy was like, who's BlackRock representative, was saying, well, look at the banks. Like, don't, you know, is there no criminal activity going on there? And they're a legitimate point, right? So here seems to be perhaps a commentary there. Continuing on, in a sense, like another way of framing that is like no one's hands are clean in this world, but you can have cleaner hands. You can make them as clean as you can, though, you know. But there's a cost to everything. Lily Illo, artist. So this is People of Tezos. So I think a whole bunch of these just got, usually 20 or so are released at a time. I came across Lily's, and here it is. If we have time, we'll put up more tomorrow. Just a beautiful, so a self-portrait by Lily Illo, which is super interesting. Great piece. Captures everything that Lily Illo's art is about, and just a great self-portrait there. And here, Scamra, what does a unicorn symbolize? So stable diffusion and diffusers textual inversion. So another figure at a computer here, at an AI computer, AI illustration. And look at this one too. Fabulous. Gotta love all this like AI programming. Fabulous work here. And here's Tukes, the isolation of muted landscapes. So here we are, some different AI landscapes from Tukes. So just a window into what's going on in Tukes' process. And this is the work, this was also at Art Basel. And I'm thrilled to present my latest creation, Lush Illusions. This was at a Christie's event. A heartfelt shout out to NFT Now for this incredible chance. So I guess NFT Now put it together and maybe hosted by Christie's. Not exactly sure how it all worked. And I think this went for an ETH. Great piece. Great piece by Tukes. And as we go into the physical work, at last, Adam Lister Studio, Magic vs. Bird. We've been looking at this artist here, fabulous work here. As you see, the R2-D2 and more. There's Superman, just a great artist. And we've been looking at Bondozo Bandito, who seems to be a super prolific artist. I think these works are just fun and great. There's something to be said for this artist who seems to be constantly working. Wonderful, wonderful art. I think we have more. Rauschenberg erasing de Kooning as the subject matter of a work. This looks like a drawing by the same artist. And of course, that famous concept art piece. Rauschenberg asked de Kooning, actually, if he asked for permission to do it before doing that, interestingly. I remember seeing an interview with Rauschenberg on that piece. So anyway, cool. Here's another one by Bondoso Bandido. Just taking, more contemporary subject matter, Hawaii driver's license. Not sure who this is. McLovin to Hate. Not sure who that is. Interesting piece, though. So cool artist. Here's another one, Thug Life. Again, this kind of airbrush at the of the work with this kind of really hard contrast of the green thick paint. It just makes a nice contrast. So almost everything works with this contrast. Here's another artist, Mike OK, who I'd never seen before. Just really fascinating artwork coming out of the contemporary art, like physical art world on Instagram. More than I'm seeing in the galleries, but mostly on Instagram, I'm getting wowed out here. This is just really, bold composition. Okay, and here's an artist, Bobby Cs Matiha, who we've been looking at here. Looks like, what is the name of this guy? Not Shredder, Bebop and Rocksteady. This is maybe Bebop from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with some McDonald's takeout, perhaps. We've been looking at a ton of this artist's work. Here's another one. Really interesting, beautiful artwork. Almost like totemistic sort of art here. Fascinating work. Bay Anastasia, I don't think we saw this. We may have looked at it before at the NADA Art Fair in Miami. Pretty interesting piece here. This is at, Ice Palace Studios, and I think it's Bay Anastasia. And this is Christian Bear. So here's me recapping this year's paintings and shows since I was... So interesting also here, isn't it? Textilkunst. I think we've looked at this artist before. Again, bold work. I love it. I feel like there's something's happening out there in the physical art world as well. Samuel Lamenza. Interesting kind of airbrush work here, or spray paint. So another airbrush spray paint artist. It's a bit of a trend, isn't it? Acrylic on canvas. And here is Will Sweeney, what looks like a B-52 bomber or something, or some kind of bomber, but changed, transformed, colored pencil on paper. And here is another piece, Yves de Camp. Look at this, these squares, just original take on Popeye with these squares in the background. And here's Rada. Felt cute, might delete later, and of course I follow Rada. And just a really nicely painted piece here. It looks like ink and watercolor, beautiful. And that is your show, everyone. I forgot the music at the end because, as you can see, there is quite a bit of work here. Thank you for joining me, and until next time, take care.